It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome to episode 4 of live sessions on the Trademate Sports YouTube channel, where you guys have all right. Sorry, I thought I had some connection issues there, but it looks to be okay now. Welcome to episode 4 of live sharp sessions on the Trademate Sports YouTube channel, where I answer your betting questions, discuss both new and old betting strategies, preview the weekend sports betting action, and welcome on guests from around the betting industry. Today will just be me, myself, and I'll be talking about risk management, as the title says. Delve into some strategies for you guys on how you can manage your risk to make sure you don't go broke trying to make money from sports betting, whether that's your profession or whether that's, some kind of side hobby, side hustle, whatever you want to call it. Just give you guys some ways so that you can bet for a long time and not lose all your money on just a few mistakes potentially. So I'll go through that to start off with. As always throughout, happy to answer any questions you guys have got, whether that's relating to risk management or any kind of sports betting related topic. And then, as always, at the end, I will go through my best, I'll give you 3 bets for the weekend that I shall be or have already placed. All right. So risk management. So I've got basically 4 ways or 4 sorry, one sec. Good afternoon, Sophie. Good to have you along. So today, I've got basically 4 steps here to go through for the risk management, and I might as well just kick things off. So point number 1 when it comes to sports risk management is just an easy starting point, setting an appropriate bankroll. So I guess the main rule here is that no matter whether you're doing it professionally or whether you're doing it as a, side gig, casual kind of thing, you want to set a bankroll where of an amount of money that you're comfortable losing. I think that's the kind of best place to start. So, I mean, if you are a plus EV better, if you're good at what you do, the chances of you losing that whole bankroll, especially if you stake and you abide by risk management principles, then it's near on impossible. Like, it's very, very hard to lose all that money. So why I say that is because you should always be betting percentages of your bankroll. So no matter if you start with $1,000 and after a month or 2 you've got $500, then you should be staking less than when you had 1,000, and so on, so on. So, but it is important because you never know. You should set a bankroll that you're comfortable with losing. Don't, if you've got $10,000 to your name and you need to pay rent and you need to, buy yourself some food and all this kind of stuff, don't don't make your bankroll too big because you want to save some money for that. It doesn't just, whatever you're comfortable with losing, I think, is the most important thing. And just don't be too greedy. I think it's almost good to start quite small because you'll probably be at the infancy of what you're doing as a sports bettor. and it's just better off that you are learning lessons. Most likely your ROI will be at its smallest when you start because you're learning. So you're just better off learning or making mistakes with less money, losing less money. All right. So, next step is number 2, staking, which is kind of the most obvious one when it comes to risk management. So, first of all, and g'day to Michaela. Good to have you along. So I think the most important thing for staking, and it's a common mistake I see across maybe it's not a very accurate reflection of the Sharp community, but people on Twitter, things that I see, common misconceptions is setting your max bet. I think people generally are staking way too much for their max bet. I think, let's just say you've got $1,000. I firmly believe that you shouldn't really be max betting more than, your max bet shouldn't be more than 2% of your bankroll. So in that case, it would be $20. But I see lots of people who are, in some cases, staking like 5% of their bankroll. Now, it might work out for you, especially if you're a plus EV bettor. There's more chance that it could work out for you, but I think it's not really worth the risk to be putting 5% of your bankroll on one outcome. No matter how sharp your bet is, really random, unfortunate events can happen in sports. For example, I bet on last year in the UFC. I bet Tom Aspinall. I bet Calvin Kattar. I bet TJ Dillashaw. Who else? There was 2 other guys, all who got injured or came into the fight with an injury. Tom Aspinall did his knee within 15 seconds of the fight. TJ Dillashaw dislocated his shoulder within 30 seconds. Who was the other one? Calvin Kattar. Yeah, what did he do again? He did something to his knee off a kick or something, from memory. But these are, they're freak circumstances. They rarely happen, and maybe they're more common in, one-on-one fighting, tennis, these kind of one-on-one things. But, could happen in a game of rugby too, where the best player, let's just say Nathan Cleary, is injured in the first minute. Tom Trbojevic was injured in the second minute, I think, of third minute of Origin game 2, and that just completely changes the game. Not completely, but it means that whatever price, it's not the same game as we had earlier. So you should always have a max bet, because you just never know. It's sport. It's unpredictable. Things can happen. So it's always important to set a max bet, and I believe that should be 2% at most. And I think that max bet, as your bankroll gets bigger, your max bet, I think, should get smaller, because in general you're going to be staking more because your bankroll's bigger. So why take even more risk by increasing that max bet? Because, if your bankroll's $1,000 compared to $1 million, there's a big difference in of 2% of each of those numbers. So 2% of $1 million is a significant amount of money. So do you really want to risk that amount of money on a single event? Maybe not. I still think you're practicing pretty safe staking, bankroll management or risk management if you're doing 2%, just in general, no matter what your bankroll. But the aim of the game is turnover. So if you are turning over lots of money every week, then you can just, you don't have to have as big of a max bet. So, yeah. Sorry, got a question here from Ikeno Erukan. Sorry if that's pronounced wrong, mate. Good morning, sir. You have come to the right place and time. I've been betting for almost 10 years and I have been losing for all that time. How can I manage to regain the losses? Well, that is quite the question. And I would be here for a long time if I told you all the way to get good from sports betting, mate. But I think a good way to start, which is the way I started, is to go and read the Trademate Sports ebooks. I'm not just doing it because this is with Trademate, but they are the best place to start, I think, in terms of building your education on sports betting. And if you read those 4 ebooks, I think you go from the worst sports bettor in the world to the top 5% of sports bettors in the world. 5 to 10, let's just say. So that's a good starting point, mate. All right. So, yeah, we've talked about max betting. So try and stick to 2%. And then staking in general, there's lots of different ways you can stake. There's the Kelly criterion. There's numerous videos, articles out there on the Trademate Sports websites and YouTube channel. You've got Kelly criterion. You've got flat staking. You've got level staking. You've got, betting to win a certain amount. I believe that Kelly criterion is the best staking method for risk management, but at the same time, if you're doing full Kelly, then that's going to be crazy. You need to set a percentage of the Kelly criterion, which generally Trademate we recommend 25% to 30%, which I believe is good. So it's basically a mixture of betting an amount of money based on the odds and the edge. So, for example, if you have a bet at even odds and it's a 5% edge, it's going to be pretty close to your max bet. But if you've got a 5% edge at 4 in odds or 5 in odds, it's going to be a lot less percentage, just because there's a lot more risk involved with those kinds of odds. So I think Kelly criterion is the best way to go. If you're just getting started and you don't know how to use the Kelly criterion, you can always use a website, which will help you. But I think level staking, or just betting to win a unit, whatever you want to call it, is a good place to start. So you're always kind of betting based on what the true odds of the outcome are. So, like I said, putting more money on something that's 2 in odds rather than 3 in odds or 4 in odds, and the same, as you go up or down. But I think the main thing is that you're not betting too much. You're not putting too much money on one outcome. And that's also the same if you have 2 or 3 different bets for one game or fight or match, whatever. Because if there's one outcome in that, let's just say this weekend, Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, I'm going to bet, I'm not saying that I am going to bet, but let's just say I think Poirier by KO is value, and I also think Gaethje by decision is value. That means there are 4 other outcomes, or 5 if you include the draw, that if that doesn't happen, I will lose the money. Still don't go and put 2% or your max bet on the Poirier KO and then another 2% on Gaethje decision. Together, that's 4% of your bankroll on one fight, on one match. And if both of those don't happen, which is a possibility, then you're going to lose a lot of money on one outcome. Hope that makes sense. Number 3. Point number 3. hedging and cashing out. So I'm not saying I recommend doing this in terms of when you're applying risk management. I'm not saying that you should be hedging and cashing out all the time. I mean, in general, you should never cash out, because generally you would think that cashing out is less valuable, or you're going to make less money than hedging out. So in general, just don't do cashing out. You're much better just going in, if you've bet Dustin Poirier and he's, the best Dustin Poirier is your last leg of your multi to win $1,000, and they're offering you $200 cash out. You're better off just going and betting Justin Gaethje, because then instead of cashing out, no matter who wins, you're going to win maybe $300 or $400 or something like that, as an example. So don't cash out. That is one of the stupidest things you can do in sports betting. But hedging in general, sorry, I lost my connection, but I am back. Hedging in general is not something I do, not something I really recommend, but it is a less riskier way of sports betting. It's also, in a lot of the circumstances, a negative EV way of doing things. In the long term, you're probably going to be better off mathematically, or just profit wise, riding out the variance and never hedging out. I just have a firm belief that the only time you should ever really hedge, this is my opinion, other people might have different opinions. The only time that you should hedge is if it's a life-changing amount of money. So, and most of the time, if it is a life-changing amount of money, it's normally on an accumulator multi-parlay, because, you normally aren't making life-changing, or not life-changing, but humongous amounts of money if it's just, you putting a normal bet down. So, yeah, I believe you should only be hedging out if winning that multi, or winning partially what that multi is, will significantly, maybe not life changing is the right word, but maybe career changing, bankroll changing, you could say. Maybe let's just say you've got a $10,000 bankroll, and this multi is going to let you win $100,000. It's a big multi. You got into the last leg. You can about to win $30,000, $40,000, for example, no matter what the outcome. Do you just take the 40 grand that you can get now, or do you risk it all and go for the 100,000? That's the decision everyone else, you guys have to make. But maybe that 40 grand, just getting that 40 grand, it quadruples your bankroll. It does more than that. It does 5 times your bankroll. Don't know what that word is. And now you have 50 grand to play with, rather than 10, which is a huge leg up compared to having just 10. So in probably that case, I mean, I don't know if it's a good example or not, how probable that is, but I'd probably cash out there. I'd hedge, because you've got a free opportunity, not free, but you've got an opportunity here to take your bankroll from 10 to 50, which could take a long time, a year or something like that, if you just did your normal kind of methods. So yeah, in that case I would probably recommend hedging out. But how rarely does this happen, that that you're going to make a life-changing amount of money? Normally it is often accumulator, and normally accumulators are not going to get to that last leg anyway. So that's what I would do in that case. If you are hedging out a lot, I think that is kind of a way of, if you're hedging out often, I think that just because you're scared of losing, the other side, or, I think that's more of a sign of you not being able to handle the variance in sports betting. And I think over time, you're limiting your profitability by hedging out all the time. Maybe it's, a decent kind of strategy when you're just trying to build a bankroll, but not every bet you can hedge out. So what about the times when, when you lose your bet or you don't have the opportunity to hedge out? You're losing your full stake. Whereas when you do hedge out, you're only winning a portion of what you were going to win if the bet was to win. So mathematically, it's kind of an interesting, you're limiting your profitability, probably. If anything, it might even make you negative EV, maybe. But yeah, I gave a good example there of when I would recommend hedging. Follow it if you like. But that's the way I would do things. Point number 4, and send through your questions, guys, because when I'm at the last point here, and then I'll get on to my weekend bets and get out of here. But point number 4 is arguably the most important one: bet tracking and analyzing your history of bets. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good your risk management strategies are, if you're placing negative EV bets, if your bets are not good, then you don't need to really have risk management, because you're going to lose money anyway if you're placing negative EV bets. So, sorry, the dog making some noises. If you are bet tracking and you're bet tracking well, then you're able to analyze those results and, understand if some kind of strategy you've implemented is not really working, and it won't work any further. So I've talked about this a little bit about bet tracking and how to be a really good bet tracker, I guess. You want to be tracking like essentially everything. I think I talked about it either on Live Sharp Sessions 1 or maybe I talked about it a stream or two before that. But I think too commonly people are very lazy with their bet tracking, and it's the reason why they lose money on certain markets or sports. You should be, when you're bet tracking, you should be tracking everything. So obviously the stake and the odds you're betting on is the obvious ones, but the sport also pretty obvious. The market is something probably people don't look at too much. The market, the closing line value you get on each bet. What else? If you're following a tipster or something like that, make sure that you're marking down that I'm betting soccer here, but this is because of this tipster or whatever. This is not my bet or another tipster's bet. So you want to be marking that down. I think they're kind of just covered the obvious ones there. But you basically want to go in and, look at your bet histories and go, that's the reason I'm losing money. I'm losing money on that market. I'm losing money on that market with that tipster. And then you can kind of connect the dots and find out, why is it always that market that I'm losing money on, where that tipster says that he's making money, but I'm not? Is it because I'm taking the minimum odds always on that market? All this kind of stuff you can go through. And if you've got the history there, then you can answer all those questions. If you don't, then it's going to leave you wondering, which is arguably the worst place to be at. as a sports bettor. You want to have answers to all of your questions when it comes to your own betting. And if you are wondering whether something's working or not, it's going to cause you probably some serious angst if it starts to lose, because you're going to be thinking, oh, should I stop? Should I not? What am I doing? Etc. etc. Well, we've got a shout out to see the dog here. Well, here we go. Come on, Jordan. Come on, mate. There we go. Meet Georgie, everyone. You can't really see him. He's too small. But here he is. Here he's famous. Say hello, big fella. Look at that. The stream numbers just went up as soon as the big fella entered the screen. But yeah, that's all I really have for risk management today. They were kind of my 4 strategies for risk management and how you guys can improve your risk management, I guess you can say, and how you guys can potentially not go broke trying to do well in sports betting. Yeah, I agree. All right, so we will now go through my bets for the weekend. Last shout out for questions here, guys, as I will be heading off after I go through these bets. But bet number 1 is Michaeli Ravalawa playing for the Dragons. I think it's on a Saturday. One sec. Playing for the Dragons versus it could be Manly, I think. Anyway, all these bets are with Bet365, so everyone can get on. Anytime try scorer, Michaeli Ravalawa 2.0. We can take that for 3 units. As always, we're betting on a 1 to 5 unit scale. So if your max bet is your max bet being 2% of your bankroll, then that's a 5 unit bet, and then you can scale down from there. So 1 unit basically equals 0.4% of your bankroll. So, as I said, Ravalawa, anytime try scorer for the Dragons tomorrow night, 3 units on that at 2.0. Big fight this weekend in the light heavyweight division. I'll just get up the odds because it's obviously quite a liquid market. Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. I have bet Jan Blachowicz, and I'm just looking at odds checker now, and you can get 1.92 on Jan Blachowicz. Go to the sharper markets or the exchanges, and you'll be able to get something around 1.9, maybe even bigger for Jan. So I'll put the price here as 1.9. You can get 1.91 at Canby books, so plenty of opportunities there for people to get on at that price. I think that he should be a very, very clear favourite. We're going to go big. We're going to go 5 units on young Blachowicz. It kind of baffles me that people are betting Alex Pereira, knowing that if Jan Blachowicz does use his wrestling, which I think he will, this could look like a very, very very good bet. Sure, if he strikes with Alex Pereira for 3 rounds or less than that for however long it goes for, then Jan Blachowicz at 1.9 is probably not a good bet. But I feel like if he is not having success on the feet, then Jan will take him down, as he said himself. And then from then on, I think he's got a huge edge in the wrestling and the grappling. And he could potentially get a finish or win 3 rounds just by lying on top of him. Even when it's standing, though, my issue with one of my issues with betting Alex Pereira is that even if you said it's going to be a 3-round striking fight, Alex will be worried about the takedown, and I don't think he's going to go out there guns blazing trying to, be super aggressive and try and take his head off, because he'll then be open to the takedown, a lot more open. And also the bloke just got knocked out cold about 3 months ago. So his chin will not be fully recovered from that. I'm very surprised he's come back this early. First fight at light heavyweight, how does he cope with that new kind of feel of the body, I guess you could say. And one of his biggest weapons is his leg kicks. And Jan he's like quite possibly the greatest checker of leg kicks in the game. So I think Pereira, almost to win this fight, I think he's got to defend takedowns properly, which I find highly doubtful that he'll be able to do. And he's somehow got to be able to hit Jan, and not overcommit, if you know what I mean. So Alex Pereira winning by KO would kind of surprise me, because he's got to be able to touch Jan and score points without overcommitting and getting taken down, if that makes sense. But who knows? Jan might go out there and go, let's just bang for 3 rounds and, get taken down. Not get taken down, sorry, or not go for takedowns. So anyway, I think the upside on this bet could be quite big, and I wouldn't even be too angry at people if they didn't want to bet Jan, just in case they don't think he's going to shoot takedowns. But betting Alex Pereira, I just really don't understand the people the reasoning behind that, because if Jan decides that he wants to shoot for takedowns, I don't know why you'd want to bet Alex Pereira. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. So what I'm saying is that I can understand people that don't want to bet Jan because they're a bit worried that he might not shoot takedowns, but I do not understand people that want to take that risk by betting Pereira. I'm happy to take the risk that Jan won't and get that huge upside. Anyway, next bet, CJ Vergara versus Salvador. Can't remember Vinicius Salvador. 3 units on Vergara to win by submission or decision at 3.1 with Bet365. You can get better odds elsewhere. I think Vergara's KO line is being hugely overrated here. I think Vergara, if he's smart, he takes this to the ground and holds on to, sits on top of Salvador for long periods, potentially gets a submission. Maybe he'll land some ground and pound too. I'm sure he will. But I think he can really ride out some control time here and win rounds, quite easily. I think if he wants to strike with Salvador, it'd be quite a risky strategy because he hits quite hard. And, CJ is definitely the better striker, more technical. But in the first round or so, I think he's in danger of getting clipped. So I think if CJ's smart, he takes this to the ground, and I think that bet will look very, good in hindsight. I think his best way of winning by KO is by ground and pound, and I don't think you can rate that as high as it is rated at the moment. So there we go. Vergara by submission, decision, or decision at 3.1. That's a double chance market you might find at Bet365. But that will do me for today, guys. The dog is barking. He would like to go outside and do his business, so I have to run. But thanks, everyone, for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Comment any other questions you've got, and I can get to them at a later time. And I will be back next week for episode 5 of Live Sharp Sessions. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and see you next week.